talking to Tom from Louth, who at this point was trying to get across London in a taxi.
The press lady, Brit, she's been kind of trying to manage absolutely everything. I'm kind of trying to I've got 3 interviews to do in the time that we're in the cab before the next one. We're going on different shows as well throughout the week. So it's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of stuff.
Really? So literally you get in a cab to go from one place to another, and during that time they say, right, we've got to speak to so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, because they want to talk to you.
Yeah, exactly.
That must be really hard, because everyone's going to be asking you questions and how it's going, but the thing you want to do is prepare.
Yes, yeah. Or at least just kind of eat. Everybody's kind of sat here eating Nando's in the cab. And I'm just kind of in the corner trying to call around people.
When do you actually get back into the Britain's Got Talent studio? When will you go in there and be able to rehearse?
We'll be in the studio to rehearse on Friday. Yeah, on Friday. And so the day before they do a big kind of dress run. When we did our semi-final, when we were rehearsing for that, it took us a little time to get used to the space, to get used to the because we'd never used kind of inner ear things before. So it took a lot of time to get used to it and to kind of meld as a group when we couldn't hear ourselves. We could only hear our voices through the earpieces.
So that's Tom in a taxi. I think that was about a week before the final, and it must have been so strange for them. And we were trying to get interviews at this point for days on end, but they were so busy there. We're in such demand. It was so difficult to even get to speak to them. So I want your stories today as well. I'm not the only one who's met Collabro. I know so many of you have been lucky enough to meet them, to have chats with them and pictures. So I want to hear your stories of Collabro. Maybe you went to see them in Louth or in Grimsby. Of course, they've had a couple of homecoming gigs for Tom.
So busy since Britain's Got Talent that I just haven't had a chance to get back to Lincolnshire.
What a journey it's been for you and the guys. It's been about 4 months since Britain's Got Talent, and you've just not stopped.
No, completely. We've been doing, even straight after the night of BGT, we were up early to do interviews, and we've been doing radio, we've been doing TV, we've been going to red carpet events, and of course we went underground for 10 days. We only had 10 days to record the whole album. It was a big ask, but we did it, and we came out with something that we think sounds absolutely amazing, and we hope everyone else agrees.
So let's go right back to the beginning now, to how it all started. You're a Lincolnshire lad.
Yes.
So where were you born?
I was born in Grimsby, but I grew up and I went to school around Louth. So I went to Monk's Dyke, which is one of the schools there.
And what were you like at school? Were you always very musical?
I was always very theatrical and musical. Yes, I sung when I was from a very small age. I mean, I was in St James's Church Choir, and I was always doing productions within the Louth Playgoers. I grew up doing pantomimes and musicals, and even some straight plays. I started doing All My Sons when I was 7 years old. So yeah, I've just always kind of done this. It's all I've ever wanted to do.
And how old were you when you did your very first stage performance?
At 7.
So that was your first...
Or 8. I can't remember. One of those two.
And what sort of things did you enjoy doing at school other than music and theatre?
I wasn't very academic. I knew enough. I enjoyed art, and I enjoyed the artistic subjects, those kind of things.
When you were at home, when you were with your family, what did you spend most of your time doing there?
We lived out in the middle of nowhere. It was actually, I say Louth, but it was a couple of villages. I lived in Saltfleet By and Donington-on-Bain, and we lived amidst fields of cows and sheep, and I'd go out with the dogs, I'd play outside, or I'd come in. I still play a lot of computer games. That's kind of my thing. So yeah.
Is Lincolnshire an important place to you? Did you enjoy growing up here?
Oh yeah, completely. It's lovely to be out in the countryside, and to be honest, Louth was probably one of the best places that I could have been, because it has such a theatrical community. within it. Yeah.
And where did you go to primary school?
I went to primary school in Donington-on-Bain. There was a little school in there. I went back for I think it was a fair a couple of years ago, and it's still kind of similar to how it was. It's nice to see.
Would you say you come from a very musical family?
Oh yeah, my mum sings, and they always did amateur dramatics as well, and that's kind of what got me into it in the first place.
What inspired you to take up your love of art and performance?
I think it was it was one of my parents' friends that was doing the play All My Sons said, I've got a part, it was a part called Bert, it was a small child, and I really need somebody to play it. Do you think Thomas could do it? And so I did it, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I kept going on with it.
More from Tom and his mum, and of course the rest of the boys in the next 45 minutes or so. Go back to telling this story now, and as I mentioned, Tom's mum has been a huge part of this story, and I remember when Ella Henderson was in the X Factor and you drove through Tetney and all the villages around Tetney and there were just posters and signs everywhere. It was quite hard to escape from Ella. Well, it was even harder for me to escape from Tom because I live in Louth, where Tom went to school and where he grew up. So there were posters all over, and in part that was due to his mum, and she told us about the incredible support that she received while she was going out and campaigning for Collabro to win Britain's Got Talent.
You've got to do what you can at the time, haven't you? I know I was out doing all the posters and the banners and talking to friends, and it was really exciting for me, but what the really nice thing was going around all the shops and the businesses in Louth and talking to people, you know, and sometimes people knew why I was there before I even went in. But, you know, the people of Louth and the people of Lincolnshire have been absolutely amazingly supportive.
So now this is where we start to want to get some gossip now. So what was Tom like as a youngster?
Oh God, here we go.
He was always very quiet. People didn't notice Thomas when he was little. Even the school teachers used to say, "Oh, Thomas, oh yes, he's over there somewhere." You know, he was just so, weren't you? You didn't make a fuss, ever. And you didn't...
Well behaved, I think you're trying to say.
No. No, I think you were well behaved, but actually, your first school, you didn't get on very well because you didn't make a fuss, and you're quite behind because the teachers didn't notice you.
Yeah.
Do you think that has affected now your choice of career almost, because you were so quiet? Now actually you want to get a bit of attention, you don't mind making a bit of noise.
Yeah, I mean, during college and university I did come out of my shell a lot, which is good, and it's just kind of built me into the person I am today. It's made me able to come in here, speak to you, to perform into, well, we did Brighton Pride a week or two ago, and that was 52,000 people. Wow. We performed to, and that was absolutely amazing. So it's given me the confidence to kind of do those things.
And Gabriel, now I can imagine a very proud brother, but what is your relationship like then with Tom?
I don't really see Tom much, but all I can remember when I was younger, when he was in the house, was he always kept me from not doing bad things or breaking something, which I still did anyway. But,
so a very supportive relationship.
He's always kept me in check, I guess.
What was amazing about that day, and I remember doing that interview so well, was that I think that was 3 months after they'd won Britain's Got Talent. They'd been on pretty much everything you could possibly be on after you'd won Britain's Got Talent, and he had not been home. Tom had not been back to Lincolnshire in that whole period, and he'd only spoken to his mum and his brother on the phone a few times, because obviously when you're setting up this band and you're trying to record an album and get a tour sorted and all the publicity, there isn't a lot of time left in the day. And I remember the moment when they walked in, and of course I'd never met them, I didn't massively know what they looked like or anything at this point. I'd only seen them on telly. They walked in, and I've never seen anyone move so quickly as Tom's mum. As she'd not seen him in 3 months, she charged out of the door and gave him the biggest hug you've ever seen anyone give anyone. It was a really, really nice moment, but it does just show how hard they're having to work to get to where they are now.
John O'Brien
on BBC Radio Lincolnshire.
off the plane from America.
We got a really good reception when we went over there last time. We went to New York and LA, and people actually flew across America to come to both shows, which is amazing. This time, we just did the East Coast. We did Natick, Sellersville, and New York. So we did a little tour of there, but again, people couldn't have been more supportive. It's amazing the kind of sound you get from the crowds over there.
That's just a little tease of what they had to say. More from Collabro and more info. Another chance for you to go and see them, as the first one just simply proved so popular.
The first tour sold out. I think we sold 50,000 tickets, which is, you know, a lot of tickets. But the best part of it was meeting all the fans. We got to meet them, some of them before the show, and then just kind of interacting with them, like in the show. It was a really nice feeling to know that, you know, so many people, you know, maybe 2,000-3,000 a night, had come just to see us and support us. And it was just a really nice way to, you know, personally, face-to-face, thank them all.
So how do you go about preparing for the tours? What's it like for you? Because obviously you're not out looking for the tours. You get to focus purely on the music you're creating.
There is so much planning as well that is, even though people, you know, come to us with, you know, the tour and saying, hey, we'd like to take you around the UK and develop this whole, you know, program of, you know, a month and a half. But we are so involved in that as well. So it's not always simply just concentrating on the music. It's great, also, but it is also great to start coming up with new stuff for the tour as well, because we also like to just try new stuff out. I mean, that's what we did last tour. Actually, the four new tracks that we put into tour last year ended up being on the second album. So, you know, yeah, I guess we do have that kind of luxury of being able to test out new stuff and not have to necessarily worry as much about looking for these venues and things like that. But equally, there is such a big planning arrangement where we all sit down for several meetings and discuss, you know, budget and, you know, when's this going to come in, you know, song structure. And also just the general where we're going to stay on tour, because it is just such a big task.
And do you all have a say in how the tour feels? Because I'm imagining this year's tour will be a very different event to what last year's was. Do you try and shape it and change it every time you go out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had a couple of meetings already and started rehearsals for the tour coming up. And we've had a say on everything from the song order to which songs are included to what the set's going to look like to what outfits we're going to wear. So it's really exciting that we have a huge part in that. And then obviously when we go out on corporates or gigs in America, we mix it up each time because we want to give people a different show every time that people see us.
We actually had a very specific idea of what we wanted the set to look like this time, and we went to our production company for the tour and said we want it to look like this, and we want this and this and this, and they're the people that kind of tell us, yes, that's feasible, or no, you can't do that at all, or you can do that, but it's going to cost you this much. And it's just nice to be able to talk to them like that and just find out what is possible and what isn't possible for the tour, and, you know, what out of ideas will and won't work practically.
They say, oh, you can have a smoke machine, and we're like, no, we want dry ice, and then like falling glitter and then cannons and everything else, and we sort of go a bit off track, don't we, when we get excited about flying in from the side and having dancers and... But they're not happening. It's not happening.
Who's the most annoying person on tour? Because you're five lads who are together all the time at this time. You've all got nice clothes, you've all got nice suits, you're all looking very smart. It must get to a point where you're all getting a little bit sick of each other.
I mean, like,
don't lie.
I mean, like, yeah. I mean, when you spend that much time with each other, just little things start winding each other up.
It depends what you mean by annoying. Like, if you mean like pranks, like people who play pranks and stuff. Richard once like shouted when three of us were asleep, and there's a vine of it, and like we all jumped out of our seats in the van.
And Michael and Matt generally normally are the people winding people up by doing pranks and things like that.
Me and Matt are going to plan something, so look out for it on our social media.
One thing that does get annoying sometimes, Tom always chooses to sit down just before or leave just before are going on stage. And that, like, and when you do that, like, night after, like, it's finally your gig, but night after night when we're currently like, where the hell is Tom? Like,
And you just find him just lying down somewhere.
I get a bit nervous before I go on stage, and my way of dealing that is to just have a lie down. Like, until we hear the, please welcome Collabro, I'll be probably lying on the floor, like, behind stage, and then I'll, like, run up and then
Someone
go on
stands on him. And...
Yeah.
I'm getting a very strange insight into you guys on tour. What is it like, though? How do you go about doing it? Are you just in a minibus? Do you have a tour bus? How sort of close are you all together at that point?
We have a really cool tour van that we love, and a tour manager, and we always go in that. We travel around the country in this tour van. It was actually Simon Cowell's first ever tour van, and he's replaced the seats with like first class aircraft seats. So it's the nicest one that we've had. Not current first class. It's like first class from the 70s or something. I shouldn't say that. But it's still really comfortable, and we get a decent sleep, and there's a fridge and an Xbox and stuff. So.
And so the new material you're working on as well. When can we expect to start seeing that coming out? Will that be during the tour?
Yeah, well, you know, as I think Richard was saying earlier, last tour we tried out a few songs just to kind of gauge reaction, and they ended up on the second album. So we're gonna have a think about what we want to try out maybe on this second tour, whether it be swing or musical theatre or pop. And see how the audience like it, see if we get a reaction from that, and you know, you might be seeing it on the next album.
And just remind us again, you're coming to Grimsby. When can we see you, and how can we get tickets?
That's on the 1st of April. I promise we'll be there. It's not an April Fool's. You can get tickets from gigsandtours.com, or you can ring up Grimsby Auditorium themselves.
So there you go. A few more Collabro exclusives. I bet you never know, but never knew, sorry, that before you were watching Collabro on stage, before you've seen them on tour, that Tom was probably laid down as they were being introduced. It's all very strange. I actually do remember when they walked into the studio to do this interview. We did this in London at Broadcasting House, and they'd all had a couple of weeks off. They were all very relaxed. That took a lot of editing. I'll point out, we had about 30 minutes of chat. Most of it was them having a joke, a bit of banter between each other. It was rather difficult to edit, but when they walked in, Tom insisted on finding a chair straight away. He was straight in, straight behind the desk, and sat down for the whole interview while some of the other guys had to stand up. So I imagine that is a very true story. That's actually what happens. Thank you for sending in some of your messages. Hello. Now, we're not just going to do a normal interview. We've done that already. So, we're going to play a little game. So what I've got you to do is, you've written a fact each on a piece of paper, and I'm also here with some Collabro fans. Give us a cheer.